Hey y'all, this is TCA Gaming, and in this video we are going to go over a PSA return. Very boring PSA return, I might add you, in terms of what is being shown here. It's literally just one card I graded 50 times. And I'm going to go through all of the grades in the submission, one of the worst submissions I've ever had. And yeah, we'll just talk about it for a little bit. So, look at that, got a nice frog there. Let me zoom in a little bit. Try zooming out again. I'm going to go in the exact order for the cert numbers. So, the card that we have graded here is a Rapidash. This is the Pokemon Center New York stamped card. It is, this is a card that I've always had a lot of, at least ever since 2016-ish or so, when I received several bricks. And I'm going to show you guys what a brick looks like for these original promos. Not every card comes in a brick or has that availability, but some of them did. One of them was this Rapidash along with the Ho-Oh. These were the first Pokemon Center, I guess you could say, stamped cards. This isn't a stamp. It's physically printed on there like that. It says Pokemon Center New York. But you had the Rapidash number 51, you had the Ho-Oh number 52. So I guess you could say Rapidash was the first promo to do something like that, at least on the English side. I'm not too sure on the Japanese side, but I can't think of any off the top of my head that would have been before this. But I know that they have some special ones, you know, where they've got like the Pikachu and the Pokemon Center and a Pokeball, you know, that kind of thing. But anyways, I graded 50 of these. I had these cards were at least examined twice. And I know this because I broke the brick myself, and the cases I put them in were pretty unique. They're Elite Trainer sleeves, and so the condition of them was going to be pretty superb. I had pulled out several cards that had, you know, single white dots on them. They were still really nice shape. Even having, you know, like a single white dot isn't going to prevent a card from getting a 10. You guys probably know this if you've looked at, you know, too many PSA graded cards at any given time. And if you guys remember, I had an issue with Troll and Toad. I had sent some of these in, and they had said some of them were played, and so I stopped selling to them altogether and started selling on eBay. And when I did that, actually, I went through the two bricks that I had open. I went through every single card, and anyone that had even the slightest hint of a white dot, I sent off in its own submission and had them graded to CGC just for a little bit, you know, to achieve. I was assuming, you know, relatively lower grades, but if you guys remember, most all of them still come back 10s, and they were pretty good. Not many pristines. I didn't get that, which is reasonable because, you know, I had found, you know, some kind of blemish, or, you know, one blemish here or another, something like that. But anyways, what was left was pretty much the mintiest of the mint, because I knew that I was going to be selling them raw on eBay. Well, I went through and I started doing some calculations, and I was like, hey, you know what? If I send these off to PSA, I know it's a little bit more expensive to do this, and, you know, this is a raw card. It's jumped up to like 50 or 60 bucks, something like that for me. And I think at the time when I had first started, I was selling them for 20. Then it went to 25, 30, $39.99 was like the price I think that they were at when I first sent these to PSA. I was like, you know what? If I can hit 40% 10s on a 50 card order, so hit 20 out of 50, then, you know, I'm going to be in the green, because the 10 price really increases it, where the 9 doesn't. It's kind of like a break even. Maybe you lose a little bit of money after the grading fees and such, and now with the increased price of the raw card, you definitely lose money on a 9. But anything lower than that, you know, you're going to lose money on. But I was like, you know what, if I can hit 40% 10s, you know, I'm gonna do well. And so I looked at these and I pulled out 50 really, really nice copies. And just to show you guys, like, do you see a white dot on here? Like, let me see if I can pull it's so hard to even pull a white dot off of the edge when we're showing it at multiple angles. I mean, these are clean, super nice cards. These almost always come perfectly centered. The e-readers were really good about that, and maybe just the fact that it has the dot codes, it kind of throws it off. But like, you can look at the back side, very well centered. The only blemish on here is actually on the case itself right there, and so that's not on the card. So these are all mint 9s. You know, when you get a mint 9, you can't really say much, because that means that they found something. You know, maybe they found something that, you know, kept them from getting a 10. You wouldn't expect to get that on 50 cards straight. You know, mint 9, mint 9, mint 9, mint 9, because usually there is some small amount of leniency that you have with a gem at 10. Now, I know some of you are going to say that there are really bad examples out there, but, you know, those are going to be few and far between. Most 10s are pretty consistent. Same thing with 9s, 8s, and so forth. But these are really, really minty 9s so far, and I haven't had hit a single 10. I was hoping for close to 80% 10s, but 40%. I figured that was going to be at least a given on this submission, but it didn't happen. In fact, there was some stuff that happened during this submission that was really rough, and we're going to talk about it. But so far, like you're seeing, these are all in order. Like this is 76, 77, 78. 79. So far, all mint 9s. Now, let me show you what a brick looks like. So this is what a brick looks like. So this right here is a brick of Pikachu 27. You have to be careful where you store these, because a fingernail could make damage go across all of these cards. You're not going to get dents, on the middle of it. You might get one on the front or the back. You're not going to get cards bent in half, anything like that. But this is what a brick looks like. And I had 5 of these at one point, of the Ho-Oh and the Rapidash. This one, I think this is my last sealed brick of any WotC promo. There's 900 cards in there. I think originally it was thought to be 1,000 or so, but I think Radar may have opened one up and then counted them himself. And I've never actually counted them. I usually open them up, I take a little handful out, and then I grade the cards. And I've never went through and counted them all. I guess that's something that he did. He may not have realized was kind of cool that was done. But here we go. Still all 9s. Right now we're dropping down to an 8. Let's see if we can see anything here that would make it stick out a little bit more. And again, these look, they're all very clean. Like usually you can see, once you get down to the 8 level, something. Most 9s you're going to be able to see a white dot somewhere, but nothing's really going on here just yet. And this is the kind of submission where you get all 8s and 9s. That is something that you should expect when you have cards sent to a grading company. And why am I saying that? It's because a grading company is made up of a bunch of employees. If it's only made up of one employee, you've got a problem. So it's going to be inconsistent in that fashion. Like you might get a really good submission where you do get 80% 10s on something like this. But every now and then you're going to get a few submissions that are just really rough, because whoever that grader may be, they may have been, when they were trained, they took it literally, hey, Jim, mint 10, that is perfect. Mint 9, mint sounds like a really nice, good condition card where if you see something on it, it still shouldn't be a mint 9. So maybe whoever's grading this is taking it very, very seriously, every single card. If they find anything on it, then they're going to mark that down. I imagine if they stick around with the company, they're going to become more consistent over time. However, you never know if you're getting somebody who's been there a long time or who is considered like an expert. You've got people there that we know of in the collectible space that work at PSA that are really smart, very intuitive. They have common sense. They know how the market is. They're familiar with cards. You've got like Cam. Everybody loves Cam, right? We know Geezy. Roxanne Geezy, she's on Instagram. She's helped people out a lot. You've got Dustin Porras. He's like one of the top guys up there. These are all guys that are within the trading card space, that their name's out there. We know who they are, and we know that they actually know what Pokemon cards, look like, how they're graded, and that kind of thing. But they're not necessarily the ones grading your cards. You could be getting somebody. If PSA was based in North Carolina, I think minimum wage is like $7.25 here. I've heard people say that PSA has people working for minimum wage. I don't know if that's true, but I think minimum wage out there is like $15 an hour, so that's pretty good. But either way, they could be somebody who was just hired. And if that's the case, if I was hired on to grade, say, sports cards, like I don't know the ins and outs of how they grade the corners and all this stuff. Like I have a general sense from just being in the TCG and knowing, how I've seen some cards that have been consigned to me. But in general, I would think that, telling them, hey, Gem Mint 10 is something that's nearly flawless card. You got certain standards that you live by and that you go with. But, all of these 8s and 9s that we're seeing here that have literally, like, I'm not finding anything that's sticking out. That's kind of rough not to see, especially since I know that I've examined these cards. Now, if you look at this is a 6. So it's like, all right, what happened here? Like, how did I miss a 6? You start looking at the card and it's like, okay, I'm still not even seeing any white dots on this. Maybe there's a white dot down here. And even if it is, it's still so small. Like, I don't think it would pull away from a typical 10. But if you look at it a little closer, it does look like something's going on right here. I don't know how that would have happened. or how I would have missed it. But that right there, this is why this card didn't get a 10. So the 6, I believe, is a correct grade for this. I don't remember seeing that, especially on multiple cards. Typically, you would see something like that in that area if it was like a binder ring dent. But actually, I think that's a little too high to be from a 3-ring binder. So I'm not sure what that would have come from, but you can see, it's got a little dent there. And we've got it for 3 cards in a row. Just right here. This is what I'm talking about. Drops it down 4 grades to a 6. Well, maybe it was only 2 grades if they would have graded this an 8 prior to seeing that. And again, I don't think I would have missed that, but sometimes you have to give PSA the benefit of the doubt for something like that, because you can see it after the fact, but maybe you or me or whoever sending in their cards just missed it on the way in. And as you can see, we are still shy of any 10s, like no 10s at all. All right, here's a 7. So here's a new one. Let's see if we can find anything wrong with it. Definitely doesn't have that bend. Can we see any? See if I can get this thing to zoom. I still don't see any edge wear. Like, this is a clean 7. Like, super clean. And this is the kind of order that's just, it could be frustrating, because you send in cards that are like top notch, top tier, really good shape, and to not even get so far a single 10 out of them. It's like you open up the grade reveal and it's like, why did I do that? Why did I just leave it closed and be surprised when the cards get here? Because now I'm going to be thinking about them until the cards actually get to me, and why this is the case. Oh, here we go. Now we got something that's even crazier. We got a poor 1. So when I first saw this on the grade reveal, because I'm never the guy who waits. I'm always the guy who, if I get that receipt saying that I just paid PSA, I'm going to just go ahead and click on it, or go to my PSA account, because sometimes I do it before they make the offers now, or that they tell me that the grades are ready, because as soon as they charge you, the grades are ready. And so I go to my account and I click on it and I see what I have. And so as soon as that happened, I was like, what, a poor 1? I'm already frustrated because I'm scrolling down, like, there's not a single 10 in here. Like, oh, it's going to be one of those submissions. I used to get a lot of those, but it was typically for like WotC Hollow League Energies or EV number 11, cards that were really hard to grade. Not for cards that always in the past I've done really, really, really good. I remember Pikachu 27, the Bumblebee Pikachu. My first 18 of that card, I got all PSA 10. And then I remember I got 2 8s back to back, and I was like, I actually made a post about it. I'm like, what do you guys think about it? This is crazy. I got 2 8s on this card. And now it's still a good 10 grade, but I get a lot of 9s mixed in. But it used to be I only got 10s. And people will say that things haven't changed. Something's changed somewhere from at least, we're at what, 130 million. I'm talking about like 20 million era, maybe even prior to that. So them tweaking the grading process, that should be something that happens, especially as you grade more and more. There's more money in it. Things should change, and a lot of people don't like the older certs. But I do wish there was more explanation for cards like this. I mean, it's not feasible to have something like that unless you're going to pay up for it, and there are options for that. Like these cards had first scan images. They showed them in the Elite Trainer sleeve, which I brought some of those up. I want to show you guys how I keep them. So I keep the cards like this. So I pull them out of this. Pull them out of this. Look at the cards, examine them for condition, and then a lot of times they'll go in here, and then like in cases with this order, I re-examine them a second time, and I put them back in the sleeve, which I'm not going to be using these sleeves going forward. This is one of the submissions where PSA said, hey, you did not use clear sleeves, and this is an issue. In the future, we'll charge you for it, but they didn't charge me on this submission. But yeah, so that you can see, and the only reason I use these sleeves over the clear sleeves is because I had a lot of these left over from broken down ETBs, and I'm like, hey, instead of selling these for 50 cents, for the 65 count sleeve, I can just use them, and I'll send them in with the graded cards because I like how they're a little bit more protected. They're a little bit thicker, and of course it causes issues at PSA, so I'm not doing that anymore. That way they can actually get a picture of the backside. But as you can see, if there was a poor 1 card in here, like, you could probably tell without even opening the plastic off of it. Unless there's just something really significant going on with the surface. But let's actually look at this poor 1. So here we go. Bam, there it is. It is a Bend across the entire width of the card. So this card was bent in half. Apparently this was on the first preview scan image, so that's PSA telling me it come in that way. However, there's just no way that would have happened. No way it would have made it past me. It's not even possible to have a card bent in half in here. Like, somebody would have had to have bent the card in half at WotC, stuck it in there, then it not show up, because a card bent like that would create space. You would see it. I would notice it when I opened up the brick. I would notice it when I put it in the sleeve. I would notice it when I took it out of the sleeve to check for a white dot before I sent it off to PSA and put it back in the sleeve and sent it to them. So the other option is, did it get damaged in the mail? And again, that wouldn't happen, because the way I send them off, you have a semi-rigid, right? So basically you take this and you put it in the little semi-rigid, and then you have 50 of those stacked together. So if one card is bent, they're all going to be bent, especially if it's bent in half. And there would have been obvious damage from the entire box, because the box would have been bent in half. So that didn't happen. So it's like, how would it be bent in half in the first scan image? And so the only thing that I can think of is when the employee took it out of the semi-rigid, he bent it in half. Or something happened where it fell and it got bent in half. Like, I don't know. I can't explain it. But I know that it wasn't sent out like this. Like, this is crazy. And this is completely irrelevant to the fact that this card was bent by somebody and not reported to me. But how many times have you guys seen cards bent in half, that don't actually achieve a 1? Like, this card is bent in half, yeah, but look at it. I mean, everything else on the card is nice. See, when I saw this on PSA's website, I hadn't looked at I hadn't like examined the preview scans or anything like that at a point, because I had no reason to believe that there was a card bent in half, when it was sent in there. I looked at the front, this looks really good from the front. Looked at the back, looks really good. I thought it was a mistake. I thought that they accidentally put a 1 on here instead of a 10. I was like, yeah, they probably just made a mistake. It was supposed to be a 10. They put a 1. When I get it back, we'll get it figured out. And, if something like that did happen, more likely they would have said, oh, it was an 8 or a 9, or something like that. Because, I've had no 10s so far, so it's not like it would be likely to be a 10 unless it was somewhere in their system. But anyways, yeah, so a poor 1, unexplainable, right? So I don't know what to say there. We got another 9. We're just going to keep moving, because that's not the end of the story for the submission. 8, 9, 8, 9, 9, 9, 9, 8. Look, another 1. And look, this one is actually bent in a different direction. Well, it's bent in the same direction, but it's bent a little bit lower. Let's see if it lines up. I didn't check to see if that happened. Let's see. It looks like it could have, looking at those lines, you got one there and one there. Looks like that could have happened. Like, maybe the cards were staggered like that. I don't know. Maybe they're hanging off a desk and somebody like karate chopped them, or a book fell or something. But here's the thing, stuff happens. I think people understand that things happen. Issues come up, they take responsibility for it. And I'm going to say that most people will take responsibility for their mistakes. That seems to change here and there, and it's not as prevalent anymore. A lot of people like to make excuses and put things off on other people, but in this case, whoever did it, they didn't take responsibility. And to be fair, I haven't reached out to PSA about it. I kind of wanted to make a video, sort through my thoughts on it. I've had this kind of thing happen once before. If you guys have been around on my YouTube channel for a long time, I used to have an Exodia LOB piece. It was one of the legs. It might have been an arm. It wasn't the head. I sent all of these Exodia pieces off. I got them in the same collection, mint condition. Did a video. In fact, I think I sent it with some other Pokemon cards as well. And everything graded high except for one Exodia piece come back as a 2. And, I was like, hey, this wasn't a 2. When I sent it off, somebody, damaged it there. Like, we have no idea what happened. Nobody here damaged it like that. I'm like, and here's what the card looked like. So take a card, find a metal cart, like a rolling cart, and put tiny wheels on it, maybe this wide. And then set the card on the floor, take this really heavy metal cart with tiny metal or plastic or whatever wheels, and then roll over it about 100 times in different directions. Because that's what it looked like. It looked like all these symmetrical lines had just rolled over this card 50 times. And it's still graded a 2. So that's why when I saw that card bent in half where everything else was still very nice, looking flawless on the card, the fact that it got a 1, I don't know if that was done on purpose, and my mind goes all these different places. Like, did somebody just grade that a 1 because they knew that it would probably get more money as a 1 rather than a 2? Because you know how 1s sometimes get those premiums. Those might be the only ones for that card. I haven't looked up the population, but this is a pretty easy to grade card. And so, anyways, I never got any resolution from that 2. So things like that are going to happen. In my opinion, what I think happened was an employee, they damaged the cards. And then they damaged the cards, and then they didn't say anything because they didn't want to lose their job. They didn't want it to cause a big issue. Maybe they were new. Maybe they just didn't care. Maybe they didn't want to take responsibility, and because I don't think it was like a personal attack on me or anything like that. I mean, not many people are gonna know my name if they're like, from my Rusty Oakley, whatever it is, my account number. I don't even know if I use my full real name on there. I think it is Rusty Oakley, but it's not Russell Oakley. But look at that. We do have a Gem Mint 10. So I believe that what happened was, it got damaged at PSA. Someone there did it. They didn't report anything. And then just at a stroke of bad luck, I also got a grader who was just really, really tight, very, very tight about his grading and how he hands out Gem Mint 10s, because 1 out of 52% on 10s for like top-notch mint cards, that I've never had a submission that bad. I've had submissions worse where I get no Gem Mint 10s on like 100 cards, but it's been because they're all like I said before, EV number 11s or hollow WotC energies where there's print lines or there's something that's probably going to be present on the card, and I'm hoping that I have a Gem Mint copy in there. Whereas almost all of these are going to be Gem Mint 10 quality, and I just didn't get it. Like they just all something, maybe somebody farted and the card smelled bad and he didn't want to give it a 10. I really don't know why it happens, but that's something that can happen. That's not going to be exclusive to me. It's not exclusive to anybody. There's really nothing you can do about it other than if you want to try to grade them again, you can, or you can just try to recoup your losses and sell based off of the grades that you did get. I got 110. I mean, that one made money on that one, and then I lost money on the other 49, or maybe break even on the 9s, or I can just wait, sit on them. The 1s, who knows? Maybe those will actually do better than the 8s and 9s. I don't know. They didn't have a good chance of getting a 10 in the anyway, so maybe the guy did me a favor. But it is I don't know, it is frustrating to see something like that happen and have no contact from them whatsoever. And like I said, I haven't reached out to them letting them know the issue. PSA, the higher ups, most everybody in the company probably has no idea when something like that happens. It's just going to be the one person likely that messed up, that just kind of like, what, it was already bent, let's send it through, let's scan it now and then we'll send it through. And so it's not the company's fault, something like that happens. They might even have footage of it happening there, and all I would have to do is reach out. But what are they going to tell me? It probably would have graded an 8, and so now we're going to give you a $20 credit. I mean, that's not that. Honestly, I'd rather keep it as a 1, as a memento, as a reminder of what's going on. But anyways, for those of you who are wondering, why am I talking bad about PSA? I'm not trying to talk bad about them. I'm trying to be honest and real with you guys, especially when, some of you use my code TCA25. If you've never submitted to PSA, you can use that code, get $25 off your first submission. And I also get a kickback. So you're like, aren't you sponsored? Like, I guess you could say I'm sponsored. Like, I'm not, like I get that kickback, but you also get a discount. But like, they don't pay me what to say. They want me to advertise for them. And get that out there and let them know that, hey, if you use this code, we thank you for talking about us and bringing us new customers. We'll give you a kickback as well. But they don't pay me to say anything in particular. Otherwise, I wouldn't be saying this about them, obviously. But if I do ever, send you guys a code about a company or something, I want to be real with you. I want you to know exactly what to expect. When you grade with a company like PSA or CGC or anywhere else, there is always a risk that you're taking because you're letting other people handle your card. And when other people handle your card, you don't know who that is going to be. It could be somebody very experienced, or it could be somebody who is on their job for the first day and also likes eating their lunch while they grade your $1,000 cards. Hopefully that's not even a possibility at these print facilities, but it's something that you should probably just go ahead and assume. Make sure that you have you put in as many precautions as you can. There are ways that you can package cards to make it easier for people when they pull them out or when they go to grade them. But at the end of the day, things are going to happen, especially when you're talking about, 130, 130 million cards graded. If that number is accurate and every single cert, other than the deactivated ones, have a certification, like there's a card to patch every cert. That's a lot of cards. That's a lot of hands. That's a lot of potential for mistakes. Things are going to happen, and when it does, you just have to be reasonable, but also hopefully the company or whoever caused the problem, they take responsibility for it, because that is what you should do, right? When you cause an issue, you take responsibility. Like recently, those MetaZoo auctions that I sent out, that I had for the legend rares and the hidden rares, I had 27 individual raw card auctions. They did great, or at least I thought they did pretty good. I mean, a lot of them were the first sales. I actually had a complete alternate art set for like $500, whereas 28 cards also up in buy nows. Somebody bought one of those, and instead of sending them the complete set, this one customer, I sent them all of the auction cards. I sent them 27 individual legend and hidden rare cards. And so I had to cancel every single one of those auctions after they won them. And so that put 27 defects on my account. A lot of them said, yeah, please cancel. I could have put the option, buyer asked to cancel, but that would not have been true. It was, item was out of stock. And so now I've got 27 defects coming towards my account. And it could put me below standard on eBay for the first time, I don't know, probably since 2009. Not even in the 2020s or the 2010s, like 2009. I remember I went below standard one time back then. And that would be crazy. And I reached out to my rep. I was like, hey, this many defects. Like, I've got 0 defects for the past 90 days. I probably have 1 for the entire past year where maybe I didn't ship something out on time because they bought it for a free local pickup and I didn't upload tracking. Well, when you cancel an item for being out of stock, you get a defect. And 27 defects is probably going to take me below the 2% mark. And so I'm like, hey, is this going to affect my account standing? Because, and I've reached out to all the buyers. I'm sure I'm working with the international hub trying to get the cards back, because, of course, they didn't go to a U.S. buyer and I could stop the package. It went to the international hub where I have to work with eBay, and hopefully they catch it and send it back, because if they don't, once it goes international, I'll never see it again, because I don't even know who the buyers or where the buyer is, because when you ship through eBay international shipping, it's just, you get eBay's hub address and that's it. But anyways, I'm the one trying to take responsibility for all that. I'm trying to work with all the buyers, go above and beyond to figure it out. If I have to, I'm going to open up more product. I mean, 27 individual like hidden rares and legend rares, that's a lot of cases. That's a lot of work, a lot of opening. And even still, I wouldn't be guaranteed to get those same cards back out of it. But long story short, this right here, grading cards can be very beneficial. It really can be very beneficial monetarily. Can be for preserving your cards, making them look nice, having them to hold value for the future. But you also take a risk, and when you do take that risk, understand that if you submit stuff in long enough, something's probably going to mess up. And out of all of the submissions that I've had, I've probably sent in at this point over 100,000 cards, not just through my account, but like including other accounts that I've sent them through, like during COVID times with Ludkins and different places like that. I can recall less than probably a dozen cards that have ever been damaged, and only now 3 cards that have been damaged where they didn't take responsibility for it. And to be fair, they haven't been given a chance really with these. I think the first chance is when it happens, you should reach out to them. But if one rogue employee just decided not to take responsibility, I'm not going to blame the entire company for something like that. So even though I have a bad submission like this where 2 cards are damaged, bent in half, grade poor 1, and I only get 1 out of 50 10s on cards that I believe all had a shot at 10s, I'm still grading with PSA. Like, I'm still going with them. This is not something that would be a deal breaker for me. There are other things that are, I would think are bigger pressing issues, like with the conflicts of interest, with the monetary up charges, and different things like that. But I think those are all inherent risks that you're going to take, because they also provide convenience. And I don't know, it's all, at times it feels like a game, but like I said, there are many benefits to grading cards through a place like PSA or other grading companies. Like this right here, this is a nice display piece. You have a Mint 9 Rapidash. And in my opinion, it's got the 10. Like, is that white dot there? It's probably not. It's probably, yeah, it's on the case. Like, it's a really nice displayable card. something there probably caught the guy's eye, and he's like, you know, it's not going to get a gem at 10. But I could crack it out, potentially spend the money again, and maybe the next guy would grade it as a gem at 10, or it'd come back a 9 again, and I just wasted another $20. You know, that's another risk you take. So I try not to crack out much. I've cracked out some orders before where it makes sense. Honestly, it makes sense to crack out the 8s in here and sell them as raw, because I'm going to get more money out of that than the graded 8 or the 9. But anyways, guys, I'm going to continue rambling on if I don't cut it off. I appreciate everyone for watching the video. And again, if you want to grade with PSA and you've never done it before, use my code, at least get $25 off of it. Hope you do really good with your grades. Good luck with that. But anyways, Merry Christmas, and I hope to see you guys in another video soon.